It was the summer of 1998, a time before mobile phones connected the world. When running into someone by chance still felt like fate, Jason, a 19-year-old engineering student, was in Pune with his college friends, enjoying a casual trip. But his thoughts weren't on sightseeing or exploring the city. He was searching for something more personal. Someone, to be exact. His childhood friend Jessica, whom he had lost touch with years ago, had been on his mind since he arrived. Jessica had been his best friend back in Mumbai. They had shared everything, secrets, dreams, and long summer evenings, playing in their old neighborhood. But time had pulled them apart when her family moved to Bangalore. They had tried to keep in touch, but like so many things, their connection had faded. The last that he had known about her was that she was studying law in Pune and lived in a hostel. Now Jason found himself wandering the streets of Pune, hoping to find her, not even sure where to start.
Jessica, if you're here, please let me find you.
His friends had already split off, eager to explore the city. Jason, on the other hand, had a mission. He wandered through the winding streets, past hostels and student dorms, asking around, but no one seemed to know who Jessica was. Just as his hope began to wane, Jason glanced up at the dimming sky, frustration gnawing at him. He had been searching for hours, and with every passing minute, the hostel streets grew quieter. The sun dipped lower.
Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she's moved away again.
Just as the weight of giving up began to settle on him, something caught his eye. Across the street, a girl was leaning out of a window on the second floor of a hostel. The soft glow of dusk bathed her face in a warm, golden hue. The fading light caught her just right, accentuating the delicate contours of her familiar face, as if the world itself had conspired to draw his attention to her in that fleeting moment. Her features, though slightly obscured by the distance, were unmistakable, and for a second everything else faded into the background. His breath caught in his throat. It was Jessica. For a moment, Jason stood frozen. Was it really her? Could fate have been this kind? He blinked, and the girl at the window turned. Yes, it was Jessica. Her long hair fell over her shoulders, and that smile he remembered so vividly from their childhood was unmistakable. She hadn't noticed him yet, but it didn't matter. Jason's feet moved before his brain could catch up, and he ran toward the hostel, his heart pounding in his chest. The closer he got, the more real it felt. This wasn't a dream. He was really here, and so was she.
Jessica!
He called out, his voice carrying over the noise of the street.
Jason! Remember, Mumbai!
Jessica turned in surprise, her eyes widening in recognition. For a split second, they just stared at each other, as if the years that had separated them had evaporated.
Jason, is that really you?
Her voice was filled with disbelief, yet the smile on her face was unmistakable. Without waiting for a reply, Jessica ran down the stairs and rushed out of the hostel. She flung her arms around him, pulling him into a tight embrace.
I can't believe it. After all these years, you're here.
Jason hugged her back, feeling the warmth of her familiar presence.
I couldn't leave Pune without trying to find you.
After the initial rush of emotions settled, Jessica led Jason inside the hostel. The air was filled with the chatter of students, the clanging of metal plates from the mess hall, and the sound of music drifting through open doors. As they walked down the narrow corridor towards her room, a group of girls sitting nearby giggled, casting amused glances at Jason, their hushed whispers and mischievous smiles suggesting they were speculating about him and Jessica. Jason could feel the weight of their teasing eyes and his cheeks flushed slightly, but Jessica seemed unfazed, her playful smirk giving away that she was enjoying the attention. When they finally reached her room, her roommates spotted them from across the hall. Their eyes widened, and they exchanged knowing glances before bursting into giggles. Without saying a word, Jessica gave them a look, just a quick gesture of her eyes, and with another round of barely suppressed laughter, the girls quickly slipped out of the room, leaving them alone without much revolt, as if they had silently agreed to give Jessica her moment. Once they were inside the room, Jessica sat down on her bed, looking up at Jason with a soft smile. She patted the spot beside her and said,
Come, sit with me.
He immediately sat down, barely able to contain his excitement.
So, what's the plan now?
She asked, her voice light but with an undercurrent of curiosity. Jason hesitated, scratching the back of his neck.
I I have to go find my friends.
he replied, though his words lacked conviction. She leaned in closer, her lips brushing just faintly against his ear as she whispered.
Or you could stay back the night.
Her breath was warm, sending a shiver down his spine, and her tender lips almost fleetingly touched his earlobe. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow down. Their eyes locked in a gaze that lingered, charged with a palpable, unspoken tension. It was a look that held more than words could convey, a mix of intent, curiosity, and something deeper, drawing them both in. Jessica broke the silence with a mischievous grin.
All right, so there's a small catch. If you want to stay the night, you'll have to bribe the watchman.
Jason raised an eyebrow.
Bribe the watchman? What for?
Jessica laughed.
50 rupees and a pack of cigarettes. It's the unofficial fee to let boys stay the night.
Jason chuckled, amused by the odd rules of hostel life.
Okay, deal.
They approached the watchman, who gave Jason a knowing look as he handed over the bribe. With a nod of approval, the watchman stepped aside, allowing them to pass. Jessica led him to her room, a small but cozy space on the second floor.
And since the girls are nice, we have a deal. If someone's boyfriend or friend stays over, we let the couple have the room for the night, and the others sleep in the common area.
I'm impressed. This hostel life has some perks.
Jessica playfully shoved him.
You're lucky I found you first.
Inside Jessica's room, the world outside seemed to fade away. They sat on her bed, talking about their childhood, about the days spent playing cricket in the alleyways of Mumbai, the pranks they used to pull on their neighbors, and the endless conversations about their dreams. Laughter filled the room as they reminisced. But as the night wore on, the mood shifted to something more tender.
I never stop thinking about you, you know.
Jason said quietly, his voice soft. Jessica's smile faltered, her eyes reflecting a mixture of nostalgia and regret.
I thought about you too. But after I moved, it felt like everything changed. I wasn't sure if you'd still remember me.
How could I forget? You were my best friend.
There was a pause, the weight of unspoken emotions hanging in the air. Then, as if drawn together by some invisible force, their hands found each other. The touch was tentative at first, but it quickly became something more. Jason's heart raced as he looked into her eyes, and without another word, they kissed. It wasn't just a kiss between old friends. It was a kiss that carried years of longing, of memories unspoken, of the connection they had never truly lost. The room around them seemed to disappear as they held each other, the rain softly pattering against the window, the world outside fading into the background. As the night deepened, their embrace grew more intense, the unspoken attraction between them finally finding release. They made love, the passion between them igniting something that had been buried deep inside for years. It wasn't just physical, it was the culmination of everything they had once shared and everything they hadn't been able to say. The next morning, the sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the room. Jason woke up first, the events of the night before replaying in his mind. He turned to Jessica, who was still asleep beside him, her face peaceful. For a moment, he considered staying, but he knew he couldn't. His friends would be looking for him, and this moment, as perfect as it was, couldn't last forever.
I have to go. But I'll come back. I have to.
As he quietly got dressed, Jessica stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked at him with a sleepy smile.
You're leaving?
Jason nodded, his heart heavy.
I have to. But I'll come back. I promise.
Jessica's smile faltered for a moment, but she nodded.
I'll hold you to that.
Jason leaned down and kissed her gently before heading out the door. As he walked down the stairs and into the bright morning sun, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just the end of a night. It was the beginning of something more. As Jason made his way to the bus stop to meet his friends, he felt a strange sense of closure and excitement for the future. But just as he was about to board the bus, his friend Siddharth called out from behind.
Jason, you're not going to believe this. We were at a coffee shop last night and you won't guess who I bumped into.
What? Who?
Siddharth grinned, holding up a small envelope.
Jessica, the one you told me about. She's been living abroad for the past 2 years and she just got back to Pune yesterday. She wanted to find you, but I told her we were leaving today. She gave me this letter for you.
Jason's heart skipped a beat.
What? What are you talking about? I spent the night with her in her hostel. I just saw her, Jason said in utter disbelief.
Siddharth frowned, confused.
No, she told me she hasn't seen you since you were kids. She was hoping to reconnect.
Jason froze. His mind raced back to the night before, to the girl in the hostel, to the shared memories and the kiss that had felt so real. But now doubt crept in. Who had he spent the night with?
Jason, is that really you? Come, sit with me. You're lucky I found you first. I'll hold you to that. I'll hold you to that. I'll hold you to that.
As he opened the letter and read Jessica's words, the realization hit him like a wave. The Jessica he had spent the night with wasn't the same girl he had known all those years ago. We always see what we want to see, believe what we need to believe. And in doing so, we often miss the truth that's right in front of us. Sometimes the past isn't what we think it is. And sometimes in searching for what we've lost, we find something entirely unexpected. Because all we are ever seeking is...
All You Need Is, a Spotify-exclusive podcast conceptualized and created by Nazar Partiwala using 11 Labs.
Tune in and let your heart be your guide.